BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Welcome to Match of the Day Top 10. We're back for a second series. It's very different this time. It's not with Ian Wright and Alan Shearer. We're doing something a little bit different, still along the lines of a top 10. I'll give you the format and explain everything shortly. Jermaine Genus is joining me. And Jermaine, did you catch any of the Match of the Day Top 10s that we did with Ian and Alan?
No, I listened to quite a few. Very interesting. A lot of them, actually. I found the top 10 strikers in the league an interesting one. When Wrighty kind of omitted himself from that list, I thought it was very noble of him, but also I think it was wrong personally. But it was some good debates in there, definitely.
Funny that Alan didn't omit himself from that.
I don't think any of us expected that.
At least in this series, we won't have anyone that scored 260 Premier League goals. This time around, let me explain the format. It's a little bit different because on each episode, we're going to be joined by a Premier League legend. We'll be going through their own personal top 10 from best player they play with, managers, games they played in, and plenty more. And this week, I'm delighted to say we're joined by a man who's won the Premier League, La Liga, 2 European Championships, and the World Cup. It's Cesc Fabregas, of course. Cesc, how are you first and foremost, and how have you coped with lockdown and no football?
Hi, Gary. No, it's good. I mean, we can't complain after what happened in the world the last few months. We were in a safe place, in a good place in Monaco with my family all together. So in a way, it hasn't been too bad. But yeah, missing football, missing parts of life that we were used to do all the time. Kids going to school, going to training, playing games. That's what we like, and hopefully we'll have it back very soon.
Jermaine, you would, of course, played against Cesc in North London derbies, no less. What was he like to play against?
Not enjoyable, as you can imagine. We had some good battles, me and Cesc. I think, back to even my days at Newcastle, kind of, and a very young Cesc Fabregas coming into the team at Highbury. And actually, when I was leaving Newcastle, there was some rumours, and Arsene Wenger had actually kind of voiced his interest in possibly taking me to Highbury. And obviously, Arsene Wenger then, he's probably thought of exactly what Pep Guardiola is now. He was a visionary, and the team he had around him, I was looking at that thinking I'd love to be a part of it. But we had this game early, I think it was the first game of the season. And we started well, the team started well, and all of a sudden Graham Souness he's kind of looked over to me and gone, "Come on, JJ, get stuck in. I want to see some tackles." Anyway, I've got into this tackle on Gilberto. It wasn't even a bad tackle, but as I've gone in, Cesc made it his mission, really, to get in the referee's face, and I turn around, end up getting a red card, sent off first game of the season, and then the battles continued from then. That was it, really, but it was all love, man. It was all love in the end.
I remember that.
Can I say you should have saved that story for the end? We don't want you to fall out right at the very start.
No.
Cesc, what's your case for the defence? Your case for the defence there? Did you try and get him sent off?
Yeah, probably. I was young. I was just coming from Spain. You know how it is down there, and I wasn't used to the English football yet. But now, to be fair, it is different because in Spain is a different type of football. It's maybe as we see more players talking to the referees and surrounding them. Here it's fine. It's like it's not a problem to do that, but here it's seen as a really bad thing to do and a bad way of showing how football should be played and respected. But coming back to what Jermaine had to say, I always really disliked so much playing against him because he was this type of player that he had the legs that even if you passed him with a 1-2 or with a feint or something, he always had the legs and the ability to come back to you straight away. You had him on your face, even if you thought that you had passed him. So I always really dislike playing against this type of players.
Well, that's good. We've sorted right at the start that you both dislike each other intensely. Right, let's get to our top 10, and this is we're going to ask our guest every week. This is the list of top 10, and then we'll come to the first one. We're going to ask the best player you played with, the best player you played against, the best manager you played under, the favourite goal you ever scored, the favourite game you ever played in, your football hero when growing up, the funniest moment you can remember from your career, or a funny story, or whatever you want to tell. The best game you've ever watched. The craziest teammate that you ever played with. And your favourite international moment. And I've got a feeling I know what yours will be with that one, Cesc, when we eventually come to it.
We'll see.
So let's start with the best player you played with. Now, I think yours will probably be one of the easiest answers of anybody that we talk to. Fire away. I've got a feeling I know it might
I think
be.
you'll like this one. Maybe it'll surprise you a bit. But no, obviously, joking apart, I mean, it's obviously Lionel Messi. I mean, I play with him since I'm 13 years old, and when you're young, you never really think or expect someone to get as high as he did. But definitely, his talent is incomparable to anything I've seen in my life. It's difficult for me to talk about the likes of Pelé, even Maradona, because I'm too young. I haven't seen them or watched them play week in, week out like I've done with Leo. But apart from the talent, for me, he's such a competitor. And every 3 days, I mean, before, for what they tell me, they didn't used to play like 60 games a season like we do nowadays, and he's done it week in, week out, Wednesdays, Champions League, World Cups, no holidays, coming back fresh and scoring in the Spanish Super Cup against Real Madrid with 2 days training. I mean, the guy is something else. And for me, I couldn't compare him to anyone. For me, he's the best ever.
Has he always been like that, Cesc? From even like a very, very young age?
Yes.
You said you played with him when he was like 13. Is it? I mean, has there been no surprise for you to see where he's got to because he's always been that player?
Not surprised in terms of the talent and in terms of his attitude. I mean, Leo always wanted to win. I mean, he was the type of guy. Even now, I think that if he loses a game in training 5v5, the type of games that we play in training, he will hate it. He will just hate it. He will go nuts. He will not like it. And even one day, I remember that day that he was losing in a game 5v5 or 6 against 6, and the referee didn't whistle like a free kick or something, and the other team scored. He was so angry. He said to the goalkeeper, he went to the goalkeeper, he demanded the ball from the goalkeeper, he dribbled the 5 players by himself, he scored, and he said, okay, do it again, and do it again. He was like so upset. But this is what I love about him, this fire, this hunger. If you upset him, he will score 3 goals in 5 minutes. Like, it's just unbelievable to watch.
I watched the Last Dance thing with Michael Jordan. I don't know whether you've seen that, Cesc or Jermaine, but when you tell that story, there are similarities in. I think to be an all-time great, not only have you got to have that special ability that the likes of Messi and Jordan and other people in the top of their sports, but you've also got to have that commitment and drive to be the very best and incredible competitiveness.
Definitely. I believe in that so much, because this is what we've said before. You can be a very good player, for 3, 4 seasons, and really that's it. But he's been doing it for 16 seasons. Let's not forget that. I mean, it's something for me. It's just outstanding.
I played against, obviously, Diego Maradona in his prime. And when I played against him, it was almost as though there was another player on a different level to everyone else, even though you're playing at the very top level. And I suspect the same is true of Messi. And I always thought when I watched Diego, and I was in awe of him on the pitch and also off it, it was like being starstruck when you'd meet him and stuff. And I honestly never thought that I'd see a player that would even rival him, let alone possibly better him. But for me, given the extreme longevity of Messi's career and the amount that he's done over such a long period of time, I actually think, when you consider in the stats and everything else, that I actually think now, having watched them both for the entirety of their careers, that Messi, for me, edges it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar space, I suppose, to Cesc. I mean, I had the pleasure of being able to watch Maradona in Italia 90 as a 7-year-old, and 94 when he had other situations going on, should we say. But I think some of the things with Diego, I suppose, he's got that iconic thing about himself. And I suppose that kind of freedom in which that he played the sport and also lived, there's a huge portion of the world that absolutely can relate to that and love that. Whereas I suppose with Messi, you get that clean cutting edge of a person who's almost perfect. From a footballing perspective, I mean, I'm personally Messi kind of all day and always have been, because I've always tried to explain it to people in a way that he does things that I can't explain. Mm-hmm. You know, there are certain players that are physically very good, physically very strong, and they do things and you think, well, they've worked on that. They must take 10, 15, 20 free kicks, so on. He does things I think I can't explain how he's managed to do that. And I think that is just, it's wizardry. It's just magic. Mm.
Yeah, it's all, I've always described it as like, and I've watched many games from high above, particularly at the Nou Camp, where the actual TV studio is right at the top, and it's looking down, and he sees passes that I can't see from up there, and I sometimes think he plays the game. I don't. Cesc, you've played with him, which must be a thrill. He plays the game almost like he's looking down from above. He sees everything.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And you know, we always talk about Messi scoring goals and dribbling and everything, but you know, the underrated part of his game is the passing. I mean, you would think, okay, some great players, like, you know, they have the final ball or whatever. But, you know, when I played with him, actually, it's the only time where as a midfielder, I will run forward 100% confidence that the ball will get to me at the right time, at the right place for me to score. And it happened so many times. I scored so many goals thanks to him passing or having, you know, occasions, because we had a good understanding. But at the same time, I was going full of confidence, making those runs behind the defenders, knowing that he will see me and he will give me the perfect pass. And this is something that we don't appreciate enough, because we appreciate it, I don't know, even in players like me or, you know, some other players, Silva, now De Bruyne, that, you know, we have this type of football. But with Messi, because he scores so many goals, we just don't appreciate his passing ability, which for me is amazing.
Cesc, I want you to kind of take yourself back to when you played against Barcelona for Arsenal, and obviously when you've played with Barcelona with Messi. Because what I'm trying to find out is, do you remember the feeling in the dressing room or in the tunnel before when you looked across and you saw Messi, and the feeling when you stood behind him in the tunnel? And the difference between those two feelings.
Yeah, well, you know, I when I go into the pitch, I always feel confident that you know, I can win and I can beat anyone as good as he is. You know, I'm this type of player. I always try to be very positive, and I'm quite confident. But it is true that when he's got the ball in his feet and he's facing you, you just know you're in trouble. Because he can go right, he can go left, he can assist, he can dribble you, he can go back and play simple. You'd never know. I haven't played against a player who has so many, like, you're facing him and you just don't know what to expect. And this is the worst thing for a defender or for a midfielder defending in this case. And this is the brutality of what Lionel Messi is. You know, he scares absolutely every player that he plays against, and he needs to have a very odd day for him to not do at least something very important to change a game.
Yeah, I've watched him. Even on his quiet days, he'll do 3 or 4 things in a game.
Exactly.
In a game that I would never have done even once in my career. and I played.
And Gary, the example is against the Liverpool game where they lost 4-0.
Yeah.
Everyone would say, "Oh, Messi didn't appear. Messi didn't play well." If you look at the highlights of that game, if you watch Lionel Messi play that game, he gives three balls to the Suarez, to Jordi Alba. I don't know the other one. It's a goal. In another game, it's a goal. That's all they needed, and you know, he offers that all the time.
It's like that argument that people say when they talk about the one thing Messi can't be seen as the best player ever is because they didn't win the World Cup under Lionel Messi. My argument to that is if you look at Maradona, who did, and that's where the comparisons are. In 1986, in the World Cup final of extra time, it's 2-2. Maradona puts a nice little pass to Burruchaga, who goes through and finishes really well. In the World Cup final, with Lionel Messi, he puts Higuain through. He has a really good chance, and he misses it.
And he misses.
So therefore,
Correct.
because Higuain misses a good chance, Messi is therefore not the greatest player I've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense. What I'd really like to know, though, apart from because we've all been in raptures and much joy from watching Lionel Messi play football. He seems quite a quiet guy. What's he like as a bloke?
Oh, he's a fantastic bloke. I mean, he's a family man. He's a friend of his friends. He will just do, the normal thing as every human being. He goes to training, which is his passion, and after that, he just wants to be with his family and friends and just have a normal life. Of course, being Lionel Messi is not easy. Going on the streets, and how it is in Barcelona. People are very passionate about the game, and obviously this is not easy for him in this case. But he surrounded himself with good people. And he's happy to be where he wants to be, which is playing for the best club in the world, and having made a life for himself with his kids growing up in Barcelona since day one. And I think he's a fantastic guy to be with.
Let's move it on now, because we could probably talk about Messi for a week. The best player you ever played against, and obviously you played against Messi, so you can't count him because we've already had him. We need someone else.
Yeah, I mean, that one is tricky and difficult at the same time, because, when you're, you both will know that. But for example, you played against, let's say, amazing players like Iniesta and Xavi, for example. But then you remember that game, and as tough as it is, we played very well as well, let's say at the Emirates. And we beat them 2-1. So, I played that game when I was 18 years old against Patrick Vieira, which for me was one of the key moments of my career, let's say, because Patrick left and they gave me, let's say, his spot, number 4, whatever. And straight away we play against them in the Champions League quarterfinal. And it was such a big pressure for me, because I had to fill in, his boots, and it was a tough moment. And actually I played so well, and I scored and I assisted to Thierry, and probably these would be the games where you would say, wow, these are the toughest games, but I came out really happy after them, So, and then you think maybe it wasn't as tough, but it was. And then another thing that maybe I could say as well is when players man-mark me, which happened a few times. At Arsenal especially, it happened quite a few times. Even now at Monaco sometimes. And I hate that, because my physique, I like to move around, and maybe, it's difficult for the guy who's following me as well. But I hate it because I haven't been really fast. So for me to get away from, let's say, someone who is, imagine Jermaine, who is physically strong and sharp and fast, and is following me all game, I will probably not touch the ball. Or every time I touch the ball, I have to play it one touch, and very, very quickly and simple, because I couldn't really get past him with my dribbling or with my speed. So yeah, I kind of hate it when someone man-marked me. Patrice Muamba, for example, at Bolton, used to do it every single game with Sam Allardyce. He would just follow me everywhere, and I hated that. But the other way, I mean, Xavi, Iniesta, Patrick. But I have good memories of those battles.
Yeah.
What about the players like Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, coming up against
same
those players in those games?
Like, for example, every time I played against Lampard, I had the feeling that's a feeling I had on the pitch. Like, he doesn't bring anything. Like, I mean, I cannot say it was a difficult game, because I didn't feel that he was really involved or something. But anytime you didn't expect it, he would be on the box and he would score a goal. This is the kind of impact Frank Lampard had in a game, that you didn't really feel. Sometimes he was playing, he didn't necessarily, like, for example, me, I need to touch the ball. I need to feel the ball to be sharp in the game. If I don't touch the ball, I don't feel I'm in the game, and then maybe I lose focus or something. But with Frank, I think it was completely the opposite. the less he touched the ball, the most dangerous he was, because you didn't expect it, maybe you didn't pay attention, and he would just pop in and score a goal. Gerrard, for me, he was physically probably the most difficult to handle, because he was the same box to box. He could be right, left, shooting from the outside of his boot, like getting into positions in the final third, assisting. Yeah, he was a machine. And with Paul Scholes, I caught him maybe when he was a little bit older, Paul maybe. But yeah, it was fascinating to see, the skills, because I could see the intelligence in Paul Scholes when I played against him. It's not something that I could predict, because he had in his locker, 1-2s. He could have long ball, final ball, a chip over the top. He could go around you. And he was a very special player to play against as well. So the three, for me, are very, very different.
What about when you played for Barcelona and you're playing against Real Madrid, and that decade of, obviously you weren't there for the whole decade, but for a lot of time you were up against Real Madrid. Who were the toughest opponents in that side, in those Clásicos?
Oh, all of them. They had a very specific game, especially with Mourinho. They would just let us have the ball, and they would just play counterattacks. They had Di Maria, they had Ozil, they had Higuaín, Benzema, Cristiano, Xabi Alonso playing all these type of balls. And they would just, to be honest, let us have the ball, try to get into the final third. And once they took the ball back, boom, they would just start running. That's why I think Pep used to hate, in a way, playing against them, especially at the Bernabeu, because he was the team that he always told us, be careful in transition. Be careful. Like, for example, what Liverpool does now, when they just get the ball and the likes of Mane and Salah, they start running. It's unbelievable how they do it. Madrid was a little bit like this under Mourinho, and they did it very, very well. So, yeah, they were always very tough games, even though, thinking back now, I think we were quite superior during that time.
Gary, so let's get back to what the actual question was here. So was it...
It was the best player you've actually played against. So obviously you mentioned lots of great players there.
It's difficult.
Let's pin him down to one. Yeah. Come on, Cesc. Come on, Cesc. Give us one.
If I have to say one, and I really enjoyed playing against him, I will probably have to say Steven Gerrard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played many times against him, and I loved it.
Okay, that's great, and I'm sure Steven Gerrard will like that as well. Right, the next question, and you've already mentioned a couple of them. You mentioned Mourinho, you mentioned Pep Guardiola. Obviously, you played a long time under Arsene Wenger, and lots of great managers. This is the best manager that you played under, which is it's a difficult one. You're gonna have to get off. You're gonna have to get off the fence here, Cesc.
Seriously, I don't think, Gary. I swear, I don't think I can give you an answer. I promise you.
No. You've got to give us an
about
answer.
it, but
even if you say it's a tie.
I know.
Okay. So
what about if we broke it down?
But I'm serious. These are some of the best managers, not only of the last decade or in recent times. They are in the history. Guardiola, Mourinho, and they are very different type of managers. Arsene. Del Bosque, no one talks about him, but he's won 2 Champions League, he's won a World Cup, he's won European Championship, with a different methodology, with a different character, very quiet, very good man. I don't know. Like, if you tell me a coach, for example, I can tell you a coach that I learned so much from, and I would have never even thought about it. Antonio Conte. He plays defensive football, which is not on my books. He plays counter-attacking football sometimes, which is, it can work sometimes, but it's not really in my books. And, he makes you play a little bit in a robotic way, which I hate, because I like to be creative. I like to do what I like with the ball, what I see. With him, you need to play what he likes, and he needs to make the passes. Everyone needs to know what they do. You have to be here in this moment, you have to be there. When the ball comes here, you have to kick it there. So it's all very controlled robotic movements. I remember one day in pre-season, for example, Azpilicueta from right back passed me the ball back, and me one touch straight away from the center midfield position. I play a long ball to Diego Costa over the defense, boom, goal in training. He went nuts. no, this is not football. You have to play here. I said, what do you mean it's not football? I just played the ball and with one touch and he scored the goal. Well, anyway, but after that, I promise you, I learned so much in terms of mentality, in terms of my defensive part of the game, which I never really paid that much of attention. That's why I'm saying that there are so many different types that you can learn from a manager. But definitely, if I have to pick one or two, and they are very different. Obviously, Guardiola is probably the one that I like more his style, and the one that probably plays the game that the way I love it. The same with Arsene. But Mourinho, I had a really special year under him, and I learned so much, and we played fantastic football. Really, with Mourinho, probably is the one that I had best connection with with a manager. The way he played with my mind was unbelievable. But I think these three, Guardiola, Mourinho, and Wenger, because I owe them all three so much, I couldn't pick one, and I would have to say three of them.
Cesc, when you say Mourinho played with your mind, what do you mean by that? Because people hear a lot about Mourinho and his kind of the mental side of the game and how the challenges that he sets.
Yeah.
But I mean, can you just tell me a bit more in terms of like what you mean by that?
Mourinho is a type of manager that he needs to trust you, and I think if you trust him and he trusts you, he will go to the end of the world with you. And and by trust I mean someone who gives 100% for him. He doesn't demand from you to be the best every game. He knows that this is impossible, but he wants you to go to war with him. And for example, one game you play very well, at night you're about to take a dinner or, to watch match of the day or something, and he will text you and he will say, wow, I knew you were good, but I didn't know you were that good. Something like this. Stupid thing like this. Nice. It's so nice. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's so nice. Yeah. And then another way, you play very bad as a team, for example, and he will, let's say, I remember one day, I think it was Newcastle actually, we lost 2-1 and we didn't play well at all the day that we won the title. And Obi Mikel, a player that never really played, he played very well that game. He was probably the standout player for Chelsea. He came into the dressing room, he didn't say a word to anyone. He went to him, he said, stand up. He stood up, he gave him a hug, said, you were my man today. And he left. He's sending messages constantly, but you need to be strong mentally to play under Jose. This is why I think he's so good for big players, because big players normally are competitors. If you see that he does this to your teammate and he's not saying anything to you, basically he's sending you a message that you were rubbish today. For me, I took it very personal. I took it personal because I hated that. But the next day in training, I could be the first outside to try to prove him, that he can count on me next game. And this is why I think if you have a weak mentality under Jose, you will not last long.
Do you think, Cesc, that's perhaps one of the reasons why he tends to just be 2 or 3 seasons at a club? Do you think the relationship between him and his players, it can wear out pretty quickly?
Yeah, maybe. But the most successful teams like Chelsea, like Porto, I don't know if you speak to Deco, if you speak to John Terry, to Frank Lampard, they will tell you fantastic things about him. I saw Diego Costa and Mourinho have fights, and you ask Mourinho, you ask Diego Costa, who is one of the best coaches he's had, and he will go to work with Mourinho, and they had fights. But so what? They were competing for the same purpose, which was to win for Chelsea, and yeah, maybe. But if you think about it, look, Gary, Guardiola as well. 4 years at Barcelona. He couldn't take it anymore for the pressure, because of many things, After he goes to Bayern Munich, the same thing, maybe, 3 or 4 years. Now at Man City, it looks like he will stay a bit longer because of the circumstances, and I think, he's very happy there. He can work, he's free. But I think every manager, nowadays especially, they are so demanding. They want the best out of you. Sometimes you will have confrontations. People will get a little bit tired of your methodology and stuff like that. That's why I think and I feel that nowadays, to last for more than 4 years, it doesn't matter who it is. It's quite difficult.
Gary, that's interesting. That Only because, I mean, we this is what we do. You know, obviously from a pundit's point of view, when we're doing Match of the Day, we'll have certain conversations about Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola and what's going on in the dressing rooms. And it's really interesting to hear from you, Cesc, in terms of what you've had to say about him, because we will sometimes sit there and watch him now with a group of Tottenham players after, 15, 20 games and just go, I don't know, maybe Jose isn't built for this new generation of player. Maybe the new generation of player is a little bit too soft or too weak, people talk about. Whereas the older generation of player, they were brought into the game a different way. I don't know. It's just interesting to hear your reactions to him being negative towards you. Whereas maybe he's not getting that the later he goes on in his career.
Yeah, definitely. But there are also so many circumstances. But for example, when I was about to sign for Barcelona, obviously I was in contact with Pep, and I was talking to him to see how we would play, how does he see me and stuff like that. And I remember having a conversation with him that, it was stuck in my mind like forever. And these guys, they just came from winning La Liga and the Champions League, and I signed the summer after. And they won the 6 titles. They won everything that generation for the last 3 years. And I was coming in, and he tells me, "Listen, Cesc, these guys have won a lot, but since the first day of this pre-season that we are starting this season, everyone is zero. I don't give a damn who their name are, what we accomplished together. If we had 3 weeks ago winning the Champions League final in Wembley, I don't care what's their name." And he was right. I mean, this is how you have to be nowadays, because of what you said, probably, Jermaine. Because now these generations, and we are talking about Xavis, Messis, Iniestas, Pujols. We are talking about guys that you don't need to tell them, hey, you need to train hard to be the best. They know it anyway. They do it anyway. But Guardiola is like this. He's very, very tough, very demanding. And when one of the best coaches in history does that, and he's very successful, that's probably one of the reasons why he is.
That's why.
You talked, Cesc, about obviously the short term and managers not lasting that long at particular clubs. You also played, of course, for a guy that was at a club for 2 decades, Arsene Wenger, who you signed. You were 16 years old, weren't you, when you signed for Arsenal? I think I've heard you say before he was like a father figure to you. How is he different to other managers you've played for?
Well, he was different because I always felt, as you said, the same way as I just told you these things about Mourinho and Guardiola being winners this way and handling dressing rooms this way. Arsene was different in this case. First of all, he loved young players, and I think that's why one of the reasons nowadays managers like Arsene is so difficult for them, because people like, let's say, they don't have the patience anymore. They just want results. They want to win, and maybe Arsene trusting us, so many young players at the same time, this requires a lot of time. And big clubs, especially, they don't have these times, nowadays. And there's Twitters and there's Instagrams and a lot of people talking. No, it's true. The social media, in this case, they push a lot. Before they didn't have that, and maybe it was a little bit easier, to compete with that. But for me, I owe him everything, because being 15 and being in the academy of Barcelona, and 3 months later just being 16, being training with Thierry's, Sol Campbell's, Ashley Cole's, Patrick's, Pires, Leonberg's, all these sort of players, making my debut and making mistakes and still trusting me and still putting me into the team, and selling Patrick Vieira when I was 18 to make me play. And one day we were on pre-season in Austria, and he calls me. And he says, "Cesc, how are you?" I said, "Yeah, very good, boss. Thank you very much." He said, "You're doing very well. I like your attitude." And he said, "What do you think if I tell you that I'm selling Patrick?" I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean you're selling Patrick? I mean, he's one of the legends of this club. I mean, he's the captain of the club. I mean, I don't know. What can I say?" He says, "Yes, I'm selling him because I want you to play. And I think you deserve to play, and I want you to grow, as a young player." And for me, this was, a message of enthusiasm, a message of motivation, of happiness, and for me, he's the best coach for young players. That's one thing, for sure, because you'll make mistakes and he will put you again and again and again. Obviously, after, you need to prove him right. And obviously, this is football and everyone wants to win. But yeah, Arsene was a very, very special person in my career and in my life. I learned so much from him, and the way he played, for me, I think it fit me like a glove.
I hope your answer when he said, I'm going to sell Patrick Vieira, what do you think? I hope you said, very good decision.
I didn't. I was the opposite. I said, I was so naive. I should have said that, but I didn't.
Guys, if I had to pin you down to one manager, would you be able to pick one?
Oh, no, that's... Yeah, you see, you're not allowed to throw them at me like that.
I am allowed to throw
In all honesty, it would be an equally difficult decision because I too played with some of, football managers. Yeah. Great. I played the best two coaches I played for. I think were unquestionably Terry Venables, who was super intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Played the high pressing game. He was pretty much the first person to play that. People talk about Barcelona playing this and that with Pep and various other coaches, but Terry was. I remember when he first went to Barcelona. It was a couple of years before I got there. No one knew he was in Spain. They were all going, "Who's this guy?" And then he came in with this high pressing game all over the pitch. And they were all going, "This will never work here. This will never work." And then they won the league in this first season comfortably. They won 5-0 in the Bernabeu playing this high press, and they were all going, El Tel and Super Terry Venables and stuff. But and he was an unbelievably clever coach. I played a season with Johan Cruyff. Now, in those days, you're only allowed 2 foreign players, and it was quite obvious to me early on, even though I didn't play the first few months of the season because I was recovering from hepatitis. It was fairly obvious quickly that he wanted his own foreign players in there. And I totally understood that. But not that he ever told me that, but he messed me about by playing me on the right wing the whole season. And so anyway, but what a coach. And obviously that's where the whole kind of Pep ethos has come from, and that Barcelona way, and making the pitch as big as you can when you've got the ball, etc. and stuff like that. So, and Johan Cruyff obviously had such a massive effect on what's happened at Barcelona with La Masia and changed so much. So they were the best 2 coaches, unquestionably. But then if you say to me the best manager, then I also played for Howard Kendall, and who was great. But Bobby Robson, who has got a place in my heart because he brought me into the England team. He stuck by me. He was a wonderful human being. You know him well, of course, Jermaine, as well. You played for him. And he had that infectious, engaging, enthusiastic personality that you'd run through a brick wall. So, different aspects in different ways. Probably. So again, I'm gonna sit entirely on the fence.
I just thought for once I helped Cesc out.
Yeah, you did. You did well.
I think this one in particular.
It is a tricky one,
a little
right?
bit too hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jermaine?
We can't pin you down to one.
Tell us about you.
Yeah. What about? Come on. See, it's not an easy question.
For me, honestly, it's no. For me personally, honestly, Bobby probably tops the lot. He had kind of every different layer. But I had certain managers that, someone like Juande Ramos, for example, who nobody in England really respected that highly as a manager. But he came over from Seville, having won the Europa League season after season. He left Spurs and went to Real Madrid. In Spain, he was obviously a highly thought of manager. And actually, his methods and the way that he trained, his belief that he put in me, it was the best season I had in Tottenham by a mile. And that was because of him, because he gave me clarity in the way that I played. He was the only manager I had that clearly looked at me and said, Jermaine, I'm playing you here, and I want you to think forward. Let everybody else think about defending and going, but I want you to make runs behind Keane and Berbatov, try and score goals, try and and I would go into games going, that's all I need to do then. And it just made it a lot more simple. And because of that, he's right up there in terms of managers that I played for. Whereas every other manager Harry Redknapp came in and saw me as a defensive-minded midfield player. Yeah. I played under Capello. In my first game under Capello for England, I played basically just off Wayne Rooney up front. So because these different managers saw me in different ways, it was difficult to kind of grasp which one I preferred. But I know under Bobby, the love and I think a bit like what you said, Cesc, with the trust at such a young age, to make mistakes. He played me in the Tyne-Wear derbies, Newcastle, Sunderland, when I was 18, and he just trusted me. He went, just go and play. And I think because of that, he tops the tree for me in terms of my managers.
I think we're all very lucky to have played for the great managers that we played. Some brilliant names mentioned there, that's for sure. Let's move it on. Again, the subject. This should be a quicker one. This is quite simple.
Good.
The favourite goal that you scored, Cesc, doesn't necessarily have to be the best goal you scored, but your favourite goal.
Penalty shootouts count?
Absolutely. Well, they don't count officially on a goal tally, but I've always campaigned for the fact that they should.
Me too.
Because we'd have one more.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, but of course,
Okay.
yes, that one.
you did.
Yes. Yeah, of course you can have that because it was so valuable.
In terms of favorite, probably playing in the Euros and having scored that decisive penalty against Italy in 2008. Especially, I was so young, I was only 21, and I think it changed the history of our country in a way. So, yeah, I would think in terms of most important, probably this is the one, because it's not only for a club, it's for a country as well, that there's millions of people waiting for a moment like this. Then there is one goal that it was maybe my favorite in terms of everything, for adrenaline, for quality, for the moment that it was, against who it was, which is against Spurs, when I scored a solo goal. when
I remember this goal.
When we just scored, basically Van Persie scored, and I don't even know what happened or how Spurs allowed us to.
I do. I can tell you step by step.
No, me too. I've seen it 1,000 times. But I don't understand how, you know what I mean? You just considered it was about to be halftime, 1-0 down.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, 1-0, 2-0. And yeah, probably in terms of quality and for what it was, that was my favorite. But in terms of importance, probably against Italy in the penalty shootout for sure.
That goal you're talking about, Cesc. So me and Harry Redknapp had a little bit of a falling out not before the game, but like a couple of weeks before that. Mm-hmm. And we went into the game and he put me on the bench against you lot. And I always
hang on a minute, Jermaine. Hang on 1 second here, Jermaine. What did you fall out with Harry Redknapp about first?
Yeah, tell.
Honestly, right? All right, basically what had happened was, so before he arrived at the club, I was captain. So I think even we had that famous game 4-4 against Arsenal. I was captain in that game and I continued the captaincy. And then I picked up an ankle injury and I came back against Watford. And as I came back against Watford, he's given the armband to Jonathan Woodgate. And Woody's looking at me and I'm looking at him going, what's going on here? Anyway, we've got a game to play, so I just ignore it, played the game, we win the game, and I've just gone to see him afterwards and say, listen, like, you didn't even pull me, you've not speak to me. If you don't want me to be the captain of the team, fair enough, but you got to at least have a conversation with me. And he just told me he didn't even know. He's like, I didn't know who the captain was. I'm like, are you joking?
What a great, that's a great cop out. That's the best cop out I've ever heard.
Yeah. So we had a bit of a fallout or whatever, and obviously then this game comes around the corner, like months later or whatever, and he plays Palacios and I think in Huddleston in midfield, and I'm sat on the bench, and I'm watching the game, and obviously Van Persie scores that goal, and then Cesc picks up the ball literally from kickoff, Gary, kickoff, and it's like one of those ones where he keeps going, and he goes right through the middle of Palacios and Huddleston, and it's like touch, and you think, hang on a minute, he's going to be an own goal here. One more touch, and it was 1v1 from kickoff. It was like something you see on a computer game. It was ridiculous. But I was sat there, I'm not going to lie, thinking, oh, well, maybe if I was playing, it might not have happened. I don't know. But that's what I was saying to myself.
It definitely wouldn't have happened if you were captain, that's for sure. No chance.
Well, definitely not, Gary. Definitely not.
Right.
But no, it was a great goal. It's an unbelievable goal.
Next one, Cesc. The favourite game that you've played in?
When we beat Barcelona 2-1 at the Emirates, against everyone played, all the top players, Messi, Villa, Pedro, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, all of them. And I think we played sensational that night. Yeah, obviously, I'm talking about the game. After that, we didn't go through. They beat us 3-1 at the Camp Nou. So obviously, it didn't mean really anything. But in that night, if you're asking me about a favorite game, probably that one or the night where we won 2-0 against Milan at San Siro. I scored there as well. We went through to the quarterfinal of the Champions League against the Kaká. Ancelotti was the coach, Pirlos, Cafu, all of these names. They were just European champions last summer. So yeah, I think one of these two were probably my favorites in terms of how we were, because we were a young side that nobody really believed in us, against two world-class teams. And we managed to beat them. So yeah, it was probably these two were in my list.
Jess, did you play in the game? Did you play in the game at the Bernabeu when Thierry, I think, scored?
I gave him the assist, mate.
He was
I gave him the goal.
Yeah, you did. Didn't you? He was really young.
It's the greatest. It's the greatest assist I've ever done.
I'm surprised you didn't mention this game. This is what I thought.
Yeah,
I remember the game. I'm sure Cesc played in this game, and he was really young when you played.
Yeah,
in this
I was 18.
game.
Yeah, I was 18.
You was like running the show.
Yeah, it was great. No, that's why. I mean, there's a lot where I could pick. Thankfully,
it's interesting. Interesting, Cesc, that you actually chose a game against Barcelona because that's your team. That's where you grew up. That's where you played your football early on. Interesting.
Yeah, but they were the best side ever, probably. Ever. I'm not talking about some team that had a good season or something. We are talking about the greatest player in the world together with probably the two greatest midfielders in the world. You know what I mean? Like one of the best defenders in the world in Puyol. So a little bit of everyone thought that we were going to get smashed in that game. And we played quite well. We played decent. And we managed to beat them. So yeah, it has to be one of them, yeah.
I can't let you go, Cesc, without asking you this, because as we're on the subject, and that's come out as one of your favourite games you've played in, the whole Barcelona thing, you left at 15, obviously. Yeah. That was brave in the first place. Was there always something in you as a player that was a bit like, I'm going to prove Barcelona wrong, and I want to show them how good I am, and that they shouldn't have let me go? Or was it just part of the process for you that you understood that, at 15, they do let good players go?
No, completely the opposite. I think, look, the way it went is that at 15, at Barcelona, you have to sign contracts year by year at the academy until you are 16. When you are 16, then they can tie you up, for a longer period. So then, basically, this is what Arsenal used to do, Manchester United, Liverpool, all of them. Before they reach 16 years old, if someone has a good prospect or whatever, they try to sign them before they need to extend their contract for a longer period, which after will be much more difficult to sign them. It was my decision. It's not like we just won the treble with the 87 generation with Messi, Piqué. I was the captain of that team. So, I was happy there. I mean, we had a great year. So, but it was just my decision. I mean, when they tell you at 15 that, first of all, I went to London Colney, and Arsene Wenger, in the middle of his holiday, he took a private plane to come and visit me. David Dean was there, to talk to me, to my parents. All of the, when you're 15, 16, in that moment, you are like, wow, what is this? I'm just playing with my friends. I'm going to school every single day, and all of a sudden, Arsene Wenger is telling me that I will be training with the first team since day one. After that, we all know that in Barcelona it's very difficult. I mean, I had Iniesta in front of me. Xavi was at that time, he was only 22. There were other quality players in the academy, I had to make a decision, and I thought this was the best for me to achieve what I wanted, which was to be a professional football player.
It was a good decision.
Must have been quite scary though at Cesc at 15, 16 years old to leave your home, go and live in a big city in a foreign country where you don't know anyone, and all of a sudden you must have been.
It wasn't, Gary. No, I promise you, it wasn't.
No.
It wasn't at all. Nothing, because it's completely the opposite. I was very determined on what I wanted to do. I didn't leave home for 2 years. I was just going to training, going home. The first day, I remember Canu. They told me, if you want the ball, because I didn't speak English, if you want the ball, say yes. So me, I'm like, yes. and after training, like Francis Cagigao, the scout that brought me to Arsenal in the first place, when they came to see me, said, okay, man, I told you to say yeah, but just take it easy. They think that you're having they think you're having a heart attack or something. And then I was so excited, like I kicked Canu by mistake, and he was so angry with me. He was after me the whole game. Thank God he couldn't catch me.
He's a big guy.
But, this is the type of young player I was. I didn't really care about anything. I just, wanted to enjoy, take my opportunity, grab it, go home, eat and sleep for the next training session. I never really thought, oh, what am I doing? Yeah, my friends were talking to me. Oh yeah, I am going out tonight, or I'm meeting this girl, or but it never really made me jealous. I swear, nothing. All I wanted to do was go to training and play football and show that I could make it.
Exactly. You mentioned food there, which brings me, because of talking about your favourite game played in, I thought you might mention a certain game at Old Trafford and maybe Pizzagate.
Is this part of the question?
I thought that might be the topping of all of them.
That's you know what, that we felt so upset about that day, the way it happened, how it happened. Like it was the end of the unbeaten run of 49 games. Let's say the end of the invincible era. Let's say, So the way it happened, I think Wayne Rooney diving. The referee letting them do whatever they wanted. I think Gary Neville was just kicking Jose Antonio Reyes like all over the park, like properly, something that even the second free kick should have been sent off, in my opinion. But he kept going and going all the game. And I think the situation was what happened. And, I was warming up. I didn't play that game. I warm up. I was about to come on, but they scored the second goal. Nothing happened. So after that, I just was one of the first ones to run into the tunnel. And I had a pizza in because I don't know, now it's not like that anymore. But in the olden days, we used to have pizzas, and sandwiches
you got a delivery on the dugout, was it? Was it like a Deliveroo or something?
I don't even know. And then I take it, and I'm eating it. And I remember Edu coming in, Robert Pires coming in. And then we start hearing shoutings and shoutings and shout and shout. And all of a sudden, everyone goes out. Arsene Wenger goes out. All of the players, and me, I'm the last one. And I was 17, and I was little, tiny, skinny. And Old Trafford, the little tunnel going to the tunnel. It's so small. It's tiny. It's so very stretched. And you can see Rio Ferdinand, Thierry, Patrick, everyone, Roy Keane there. All the players, all the big players, Sol Campbell. So imagine, I couldn't do anything from the back, and I just was upset, and I just threw the pizza. And I didn't even know where it fell. I promise. I was meant to hit someone on the other side, obviously, and then after that they told me that it hit Ferguson in the face, which obviously I apologized 10,000 times. But yeah, he was very upset for it. I heard, but it was not directed at him, that's for sure.
I had these visions of Cesc like hid behind a door or something, like. He got into the changing room early. He's looked at the slices and thought, that's got more cheese on it.
That wasn't the case, I promise.
Hiding around the corner.
I promise you that was not the case.
See Sir Alex wallet.
A question I've always wondered about that, particularly Cesc, is what was the topping?
No, it was a margarita, normal.
Just a straightforward, boring margarita.
Yeah, straightforward. Yeah, maybe a little, maybe tuna,
no spice.
maybe tuna.
Tuna would be good because that leaves Anyway, what a great point to move on. Question number 6 of the 10: your footballing hero growing up.
Guardiola, Pep Guardiola. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Similar
position to you.
We used to play in the same position. In Barcelona academy, you wear numbers depending on position. Number 3. Well, we used to play 3-4-3, not anymore. They play 4-3-3 now, but before it was 3-4-3. And the number 4 was the player in front of let's say the libero, the last defender. And Guardiola was playing there, so I was number 4. And you always try to look up. To the players where you play in your position. Probably your guys was a striker or Jermaine, I don't know, midfielder probably as well. But I used to look up to Luis Figo as well. Figo, when he was at Barcelona, he was sensational. His dribbling was fantastic player. But yeah, Guardiola was the main one. Yeah.
What about you guys? Can we go back as far as that, or what?
Black and white, really. Back then, it was actually Frank Worthington was my main hero,
Okay.
who was a striker like that, but a very different kind of player to me. He was kind of very technical and a bit of a, great entertainer. A beautiful football, lovely touch. He's one of those kind of mavericks of that era. Should have played more games for England, really. Beautiful footballer. And it's funny, we overlapped slightly because I joined Leicester at 16, and we overlapped by about 4 or 5 months. And my job as an apprentice back then was cleaning the dressing room. It was a disgusting job, but it did give me a few months to get to know Frank a little bit, who always dressed like a cowboy, we called him Elvis. He dressed like Elvis, who was his big hero, etc. So he was quite a personality. But yeah.
What about you, Jermaine?
What? No, mine was John Barnes. No, it was John Barnes. Yeah. I mean,
Great player.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I used to look at midfielders. Like Roy Keane was at Forest, but I obviously was a kid and supported Nottingham Forest, so I watched Roy Keane a lot. But John Barnes, for a number of reasons, I think kind of my dad growing up was a semi-professional footballer, black man playing in a semi-professional league, dealing with a lot of racism. And John Barnes was kind of like almost like the pioneer of going out there in the early 80s, dealing with a lot of racism, but doing it in a way where he put the ball in the back of the net, or he took the mickey out of people on the pitch, and he had so much class and quality in that left foot that he was always like an idol of mine when I was a kid.
Yeah, a wonderful footballer, John Barnes. Right, next one. Here you go, Cesc. We've just done the Pizzagate, so it can't be that. The funniest moment.
I always have something in my mind that at the moment I didn't find funny, but now thinking about it so many times, I always like we were when Antonio Conte first came to Chelsea. I didn't really play the first 3 months. He made it clear that he wanted another type of midfielder, strong, physical. They signed Kante, and Matic was playing. So Matic, we had to play. I didn't play basically the whole season. I had injury as well, and I didn't really feature at all. So we went to Man City, and we won already 7 games, and Conte says to me, "You have to play." And I said, "Okay, that's nice." I didn't play the whole season, but anyway, I said, "Okay, I'm ready." And he says, "Listen, last as much as you can, 60 minutes, 70, whatever." He says, or the whole game, whatever you want. If you can, perfect. I said, "Okay, no problem. I'll do my best." Anyway, we win that game 3-1. I play very, very well. I give the assist to Diego Costa for the 1-1, and after that we come back into the game. Anyway, it feels like I made a point to the coach, that he can count on me, and I can start playing from there and stuff. Anyway, nothing happens. He hugs me, normal. Next game we play against West Brom at home. Normally very defensive games. You would expect, that I should be playing again, because for my type of game, to play against 10 players who are defending is better than maybe or Matic for the characteristics, or even N'Golo. But N'Golo was someone that he will always play anyway. Anyway, Matic recovers. He gives the team and he starts playing. So 0-0, typical game. The West Brom, defend very well. We just hitting the wall. 70 minutes, I start warming up, but nothing happened. 75 minutes, 78 minutes, I don't come on, I think. And, the game is calling for someone like me to open the door or do something. I remember Diego Costa coming into the touchline, shouting at Conte and pointing at me on the mic. I was warming up. Put Cesc on! Fabregas! Doing like this with his hands. Fabregas on! Like this. And me, I'm on the side. I was like, oh my God. What? And Conte is not the manager that you mess with, like this. And Conte was pretending he was not listening to him, like pretending like this. 2 minutes later, 2 minutes later, Cesc, come. And 2 minutes later, Cesc assist to Diego Costa, 1-0, we win. So it was amazing. I remember Diego Costa going nuts, put him on, he went mental.
It's reminded me of the one time that when I was at Barcelona and the Cruyff put me on the bench. They left me out, and it was a big game. It was against Real Madrid. It was a Clasico, and I'd always done well against Real Madrid in the games, particularly at the Camp Nou. In the 3 games I'd played, 2 League Ones and Copa del Rey, I'd scored a hat-trick in one and the winners in the other 2. So So I was kind of known in Barcelona as a little bit like the bogeyman of Real Madrid, verdadero, wasn't it the word? So and all season he played me on the wing, which was bad enough. But come Real Madrid, we're about 3 points behind in the league. There's like a handful of games left, and he read the team out, and he'd never left me, and he left me out, and he stuck me on the bench.
Oh my God!
And I was sitting there watching the game. And it's about half an hour gone. And then the crowds it was 0-0. We had to win this game to have a chance of winning the league. And the crowd started singing Lineker, Lineker, all round. It was like, whoa, this is
nice.
I'm ready warm, trying to catch his eye, nothing. Half time, still 0-0, no sign of anything. Second half starts, 15, 20 minutes, still 0-0, half an hour to go. The crowd start again. Lineker, Lineker. And I'm thinking, right. And he looks over and he points someone past my shoulder. You go and get warmed up. And I'm like, me? No, you behind. So he gets warmed up, brings on one sub, and then another. And our last substitute was about 10 minutes to go. And that crowd are now going mad. It's still 0-0. And they're going, Lineker. I'm thinking, and I finally kind of felt good, but at the same time, I was getting so like wound up. I think he kept me on.
Of course.
And then someone else he throws out to warm up, and I looked at him, and I just turned to him, and I said, and I did it in Spanish at the time, but I said, "You haven't got the bollocks to put me on there now." No tienes los cojones.
I love that.
And he never looked at me once, and he never said anything. Never, even after the game, nothing. And he never put me on. So, and we drew 0-0, and we didn't win the league. But I think he just wanted to annoy me. He was hoping to get me annoying me, so I'd leave the club at the end of the season. But anyway, he got his way. He won.
That's so funny.
He won it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, best game you've ever watched.
Best game I've ever watched.
There's been a lot of football matches in it.
Yeah. One that's on my mind normally always that I still today I don't know how it happened, and I was watching it with my friends, and it was unbelievable. It was the Liverpool game against Milan in the Champions League final. I mean, this is maybe not in terms of quality, because I remember Kaká had this first half full of quality and amazing things, but in terms of excitement and
comeback.
Liverpool brought to the table, coming back so early into the second half, and all those fans that they were telling us on TV, all these fans, they left the stadium, they are coming back, I remember. Oh my God. And Dudek making that save on Shevchenko. I don't know if you remember, like he was 1 meter away from him. Yeah. He just did like this with his hand.
It's crazy.
I just couldn't believe it. And it's probably one of these games and you are like, oh my days, what's going on in here? So if I have to choose one, probably it will be this one.
It's crazy, those games, isn't it? Where you can either games we've all played in or that you've watched, where you just know the feeling where they're going to come back because certain things are starting to happen that shouldn't be happening.
It shouldn't be happening.
Like
correct.
the Dudek save, you're going that shouldn't be happening. I think even Vladimir Schmitz's goal, like Dida should save it. He's right there, and he parries it into the corner.
Gerrard's goal, it's outstanding. How he jumps and how he puts it in the top corner. I mean, like no, unbelievable
Crazy
game. Unbelievable game.
Right, here's one for you, and I think someone you mentioned very recently might feature in this at some point. The craziest teammate.
Craziest teammate. Probably it has to be between Diego Costa and Gerard Piqué.
Yeah. Piqué's crazy, is he? Piqué. I mean, you've not surprised me at all, obviously, with Costa, but Piqué, I didn't really.
Yeah.
In what sense? In what sense?
Gerard, I don't know. I know this guy. I play with him since I'm 10 years old. Like he. For you to have an example, and he hasn't changed much, but now he's a businessman. You can see him on there with his wife, his kids. Sometimes, the image that he has is completely different. But this boy used to come into the dressing room when we were little, and he was, hey, guys, I'm here. Calm down, all of you. Breathe. And he would go on his knees and he says, okay, now you can all beat me up. And the whole team, boom, bing, bing, beating him up. And then he will say, is this all you can do? You bunch of whatever. Boom. And then bing, bing, bing. And then things like this, he still, signing for. Well, he can tell you a story one day if you can catch him on air one day. He will tell things that he did to Ferguson and to even Man United players, which I cannot say in his name, but absolutely crazy. I think to the goalkeeper Pinto one day he pinched his tire of the car. How do you say it in English?
Burst the tire.
He popped it, and the guy went home, and in the middle of the way he was stuck on the motorway, and things like this. He's got to be in my top 2 for sure. But Diego Costa, what can I say? You've all seen him. He's just like that. He's like this guy, unbelievable. But good heart, both of them, great heart, proper guys that you can love. It's people that you have crazy moments with, and sometimes even because of how real they are, you can have even confrontations. But at the end of the day, they are pure heart, and they do it all because this is the way they are, and I love them both so much.
Was Costa a funny guy, or was he just kind of this crazy guy that we see on the football pitch where he loses his temper all the time, or has he got a good sense of humor as well?
Yeah, fantastic sense of humor, really. He couldn't speak English. Imagine you don't speak the language of the country where you are in, but you make everyone laugh. I mean, John Terry doesn't speak any Spanish or Brazilian, and he was laughing every day with Diego Costa. So he's got it in him for sure.
It's a fine balance, that, isn't it, between being crazy and funny, but then getting onto the pitch and being able to turn it into business, definitely. Serious football. Definitely. Like Gary, was Gaza like that, Gary? Because obviously he must have been the funniest or craziest person you played with.
Gaza,
but on the pitch, it was like game time.
Gaza's always been like he'd do anything to try and make you laugh. He was like your archetypal clown, if you like. Perhaps clown. Because he practical jokes, the ridiculous nature of some of them that he would go to extraordinary lengths to do, and a lot of them very clever. He's very witty, very sharp. Funny enough, he's been calling me a lot lately. I think he's bored during lockdown, and he's just the same. Yeah. He's just the same, mad jokes and shouting and all sorts of stuff. And he's exactly that. But you surprised me that Gerard Piqué's a little bit that way as well. But
definitely.
It brings us on to our final question, and favourite international moment. You've had some beauties, but you've had the most beautiful of all.
I think the best moment in my international career was assisting the goal for the winning goal to win the World Cup. That moment was something that it's impossible to describe, and at the same time impossible to forget. The adrenaline and the thoughts that come to your mind in 1 second, it's extremely high, and it was definitely the best moment, because once I scored that penalty that we spoke about before, and once we won the Euros 2008, you just, in that moment, you don't think that there will be anything better than that. And going back to Spain and seeing millions and millions of people on the bus when we do the round in Madrid, and in that moment it topped it up 100%. So definitely it has to be that moment.
You're playing in the World Cup final, Cesc. You were actually on the bench, weren't you? I mean, we're talking about being a sub and wanting to get on. Boy, oh boy, you must have been desperate to get on in that.
Correct.
game.
Yes. And you know what? How Del Bosque used to do it. He used to call the fitness coach. And the fitness coach will go around, because we are 23 players, more than in a club. The bench is so long. So this guy, what used to do is used to walk in front of us, looking at us. And every time the guy came, he was used to point at you, and then used to pass 2-3 players, point at the other one, and you. Okay, so 3. He used to catch 3 players. There were three warming up, and I was nearly at the end of the bench, always one of the last. So he points at Jesus Navas, boom, at the beginning. He walks a little bit more, he points at Torres. And then at the end, I'm like, come on, man. Come here, baby. Please. And then he did. So I was extremely lucky.
So in that kind of moment, right? People talk about some of the best sports stars, whether it's Michael Jordan hitting that last minute three throw, Tiger Woods hitting, a 10-foot put in. Obviously, the feel has to be spot on in the most pressurized moments. Yeah. When you see that pass, was you in autopilot? Was it natural, or did you actually understand how important it was to make that pass perfect?
Yeah, no, definitely. I know this is the moment. This is the moment. It was a very scrappy game. It was not a very enjoyable game. Holland made it very difficult, defensive, a lot of fouls, a lot of yellow cards for them. But yeah, I knew that was the moment. I mean, once the ball falls into my feet and I see that Van der Vaart, because Van der Vaart was not a defender, I don't know what he was doing there in that moment. And he's trying to play the offside. He's coming running like to put the offside, which for me, he made it even easier because I just had to place it at the right time, for Andres not to be offside, which I can clearly see he's not. And then he made the rest, obviously. But yeah, that was the moment that you have to deliver for sure.
And who would you have rather been in that scenario? Because I've got a feel I know what you're going to say, but would you have rather been you making the pass or Iniesta scoring the goal?
Well, 10 minutes before it happened. 10 minutes before, exactly the same situations happened. Andres got the ball. I made the run behind the defender. He passed it. I'm alone against the goalkeeper, but it fell into my left and I shot. And the goalkeeper saved it with his feet, Stekelenburg. So it could have happened 10 minutes before, the other way around. Exactly, but it wasn't meant to be. So I will say that it's meant to be like this, so I will keep it like that.
Yeah. Cesc, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Before we go, though, I've got to ask you, Monaco, how's life there? I mean, it's the worst places to live, I can imagine.
No, it's great. It's great. My family, they are super happy. The kids, I mean, as you said, it's a fantastic place, to be. After 16 years, playing at the top and, with so much pressure every 3 days and stuff, I felt with Chelsea only renewing me or offering me 1 year with a very, deep on my salary and everything, basically you felt that you were there just because I was Cesc, nothing else. So, when someone like Monaco, where you can just be a little bit more, how can I say it, relaxed, after so many years, and they give you 3 years and a half, where I secure myself playing in a good league, not the best league, obviously it's not like England and Spain, but in a very good league with full of young prospects until 35 years old. Gave me assurances, to keep going and to make that decision. Thierry was the manager at the moment, which he wanted. He had a project in his hands which looked really, really good, and yeah, many things, brought me to being in Monaco, and I'm delighted for it.
Yeah, what about Thierry Henry? That must have been a hell of a blow. Just be there a few weeks and suddenly the guy
2 weeks
signed you.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I was there for 2 weeks, and basically the 3 people that brought me to the club, which was Vadim, the vice president, let's say, he flew to Chelsea to convince me. Then Thierry was very eager for me to go, and then Michael Emenalo, who was the sports director, that was at Chelsea with me as well. So the 3 guys that made possible for me to go to Monaco in the space of 2 weeks, Thierry, 3 weeks Emenalo, and probably 6 weeks Vadim, the vice president, they were all gone. So imagine my face as well. At the time, I was like, "Wow,
well, what have I done here?"
And and after the that's not even the worst. When Jardim, the Portuguese coach, came back straight away, and the first thing that comes here, he sits down with me. He says, "I want to talk to you." He says, because with Thierry, I spoke to him. I could play everything. He wanted me to be the main guy of the project, like this. And then this guy comes to me after 2 weeks, and he says, "Listen, I didn't know when I first saw you coming here, I didn't understand why you signed for Monaco. This is not the type of league for you. It's very physical." And imagine the first words I have from this coach are when a coach says this to you and you are starting to think, "Oh my God, what?" And then he says, "If you last 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, it's okay. I mean, I'm like, my friend, I want to play everything. I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah. But so it put me off a little bit. After that, we got on well, and I started playing, and I showed him I can play and stuff. But yeah, it was difficult the first few months. But now with Robert Moreno, he's a Spanish coach. Barca philosophy. The trainings are very high intensity. They are quality, tactically very good. The way I've been brought up. So for me, it's a pleasure now to be here and working with these guys, and I'm very happy, to be honest.
And after football, Cesc, would you like to go into coaching, management thing, or is that not for you?
I think so. Straight away, I would like to. I don't, I have a lot of friends that they say when they retire they want to have a break and stuff like that. But I don't know. Me, I think I will study. I will do my badges very, very quickly, and I will try, to learn and study as much as I can to be a coach. Yeah, I think I will give it a go. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cesc, it's been an absolute pleasure listening to you. And thank you for sharing your stories with us. Jermaine too, thank you very much. And thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week.
Jurgen, you're a big fan of the BBC Sounds app.
Oh, yes.
Well, we've heard reports that you've been enjoying the Football Daily podcast on it.
I loved it. That makes me quite happy, to be honest.
Jose, Football Daily is bringing top analysis and comment on BBC Sounds. How do you feel about that?
Of course, it's the best thing in football.
Are you a fan, Oli?
Yeah, I love that. Wow, this is massive.
Pep, Football Daily has some big name guests. Are you excited to listen?
This is a good news for us.
The team is really good.
Listen to the Football Daily podcast on the BBC Sounds app. 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 Sounds app.